this is the reality in a lot of games around this elo. I would say up until you get around diamond level, people play the game sort of one way, and that's to walk forward, do damage, and hope they win. So you can be the difference maker in those situations by being the one creating those creative plays. Why is it you chose Sigma over any other tank in this map in particular? Is it just because of that preference towards the hero, or is it because on Junkertown specifically?
It's that preference towards the hero.
Okay, good. So I would actually say Sigma is a great choice for this map for a couple of reasons. Number one, Junkertown is it's not like other maps like King's Row where it's just like one main lane. There's a ton of open space, right? There's 3 big lanes, but even outside of those 3 lanes, there's like all this open space, all these open sight lines once you get past this choke. And one of the things Sigma in particular is great at is managing what we call like sort of off lanes. So while you might not be great at just pushing in one direction full time because your shield is not the healthiest, it's hard to maintain your resources over time, but pushing out these side lanes and getting more pressure for people like your Hanzo or your Ashe can be really, really powerful on a map like this. So one of the first things I'm going to be looking for is definitely that ability to sort of stray a little bit away from where the payload is pushing and secure just a little bit more space than like if you were playing Reinhardt, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I think we can just start up the VOD and see what we see. It's a bit of a mishmashed composition you got going on with the Winston. So ideally with double sniper, you'd have sort of 2 tanks who are good at creating that space, and you'd have 2 tanks creating different spaces for your different snipers. But this can work fine as well. The Bastion's a little unfortunate for your Winston. I think I would have liked to see, so going back, I gotta change my timer, sorry about that. 20 seconds is way too far. So as soon as we see our Winston trying to commit here, like even like right now, when you see him get hacked, this is where you're needed. And right away, even before this Bastion sets up, this is the time where you could be, since there's no like active threats you need to be dealing with, other than the threats your Winston's dealing with, dropping down and helping him in the situation by just standing with him is really good. But then you've also got huge resources like putting up your shield, using your shift to sort of escort him out. Because where the enemy Rein is playing is extremely punishable, but we do that by isolating him and controlling like sort of this line. Because if we can hold this line, get around this corner in particular, keep your Winston up healthy, then this Rein's going to go down really, really quickly. And we don't even need to get this kill on the Sombra, kill on the Bastion like your Winston's trying to do. I would say that's a bit over-aggressive. But making sure that we stay alive while this Rein is in a punishable location is how we find probably the most value as tank players. So, yeah, that's what like if we just like watch it back in third person here. Obviously, yeah, Winston's over-aggressing. But look how easy this would have been if you and your Winston just controlled this corner, and then we just turn and punish this Rein, as he's caught in no man's land right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So big thing for you individually is, one, recognizing when your teammate needs that help. I don't know why he thought he'd win this duel against the Bastion, to be honest. But then being a little bit sooner with your cooldown. Like what you're doing right now, this would have been perfect like a second ago, right before the Winston died. Nice little dodge on the hook. So yeah, unfortunately, because they do have a Bastion, oh, so close. I think just a little tighter discipline on that shield. If you ended it just like a second sooner.
Yeah.
Just a comfort thing. But what I was about to say, since they have this Bastion, so they've got so much damage coming down main, right?
Right.
They've got their Bastion, their Zen even, they've got Hog controlling the space, and you as Sigma, maybe you can push out the Hog if he was alone, but all of this pressure coming through is just going to melt through your shield, and basically you're going to have enough time to net Hanzo like 1 or 2 shots. Whereas if you were rotating this way, even just like going on a short angle on this high ground, spamming down, you'd be able to maintain your shield a lot longer. You'd be able to hit backline threats and not just the Hog in front of you. And you'd be able to set Hanzo up on this angle along with you, who's a lot safer again, just because of the natural geometry, but also open up this angle for him to get free shots on potential Bastion flanking, Zen, Mercy. At the very least, it forces them to play differently, which means they can't just shoot the whole time.
Right. Well, question then. In this comp, I'm essentially kind of like the main tank, right? Because Winston is going to be doing his Winston things.
Hmm. I would say
Doesn't my team need? Yeah.
even if you were on someone like Rein in this situation. So yes, two things. So in this composition, it's sort of like a hybrid spam and dive. And in those type of compositions, yes, Winston tries to go deep and be the one baiting attention while you push in with the main force. But in this situation, even if you were Reinhardt, for example, and you had a full team behind you, they have more damage still. And even if you had a healthier shield, they're still going to rip through you before you're going to find enough space. So this is kind of two things. This is one, playing Sigma for the off angles, and two, playing tank against heavy spam, even the Roadhog. So sort of like two disconnected topics, but they're both in play at this moment. So yes, like I said, I would not be the one picking Winston here. It's not great for the map. It's not great for the comp. But because you have Winston, you do become that sort of main tank. But also, as the main tank in this situation, you need to also pressure for the side lanes, because playing main is sort of a losing game. You're not giving your team enough tools. Sure, they could, as you're holding main, they could look for flanks by themselves, but that's a lot harder of a thing to accomplish versus these heroes than if you were there helping them, even just for like 2 seconds of shield, compared to if you weren't there.
Okay.
So it's kind of both. You're right. There is this sort of validity to trying to play main tank or like Reinhardt in this situation, but it's also important for the main tank in those kind of situations to be able to control more valuable space than just the main, especially when you don't have an advantage main. If you had more spam than the enemy, then we could get away with this, but that's not the reality. Good reaction on the hook there. And yeah, I think we're kind of seeing it. Even if this Reinhardt wasn't here, to be honest, he's not really shielding anything. The range on the Bastion, the off angles on the Hog and Zen, it's really hard to do anything from the space. And I can see you're sort of struggling to figure out what to do. You're moving in, you're getting a few shots off, but then you're forced back right away. Your shield is going up and down, and like as soon as it gets poked down, you're not going to have anywhere to really go. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just disconnecting your priorities from the payload is something that's really important. And this applies to main tanks as well. It's extremely important on a map like Junkertown, but it applies at a lesser level as well to other maps. Just because of how open this map is, we need to abuse that fact. And more than just the map, just this first point in particular. And this is something that even like Overwatch League teams will struggle with, right? Is properly maintaining pressure on all three of these lanes. But yeah, only being like sort of one-dimensional like this doesn't favor the matchup because they have more damage and they're just going to win the head-to-head. And it also doesn't favor the fact that we have two long-range damage dealers who want to be splitting up but don't feel they have the space to because of all the pressure that's being put out.
Right. Okay. I didn't even think.
So yeah, you're doing a main tank job right now. It's just you could be doing more as the main tank by opening up more on the map. That's really all it takes. And this is generally something you'll identify just by looking at the enemy composition. Like if they have more frontline damage than you, if they're running Junkrat Bastion, for example, and Zenyatta, and you aren't running those heroes, you're basically never going to win the head-to-head, right? So you always need to look for more creative ways into the fight. This is a bit... So another important concept for a composition like this is, of course, waiting for team pressure. Even though it's just hog walking up, it's sort of just you walking up in the space as well. And the fact that you flashed your shield and used your shift already too just makes you a really easy hook target. Just like to see a little patience there. Even if it means just like sitting up here, trying to get some spam, even if it means just waiting at this corner, even if it means just like waiting in spawn for the rest of your team to catch up. We got to push this together because this hog, where he is right now, if your team was here, he's killable. But because it's just you walking up, he gets a free hook. Oops.
That's the Reinhardt player in me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not quite as survivable as Reinhardt, unfortunately.
I know. And this is the problem on this map. We don't even get the first point.
And to be fair, in your defense, this is a very hard map to take, especially when they're being annoying and running the Bastion here. So you got to be really creative with the way you approach it. Could you remind me, sorry, what rank this game is at?
This is Silver.
Silver? Okay.
Around 1550 something.
Okay. So this is the reality in a lot of games around the Elo. I would say up until you get around diamond level, people play the game sort of one way, and that's to walk forward, do damage, and hope they win. It's not often you find a lot of creative plays in like quote unquote lower elos. So you can be the difference maker in those situations by being the one creating those creative plays. Even if you're alone creating space, you'll still be doing more for your team sort of passively, even if they're not like using it properly. So even though like say you play for this high ground and get those off angles, one, you'll be doing more individual threat by yourself. You'll be doing more damage. You'll find more rock opportunities. You'll be able to block more proactively because you won't need to have your shield up full time, that kind of thing. And there's the possibility of your team using that space. It's not guaranteed. It's possible they just stand back main and keep shooting anyway. But you creating that off angle makes the enemy team have to think of like where they're going to be shooting. So if the Bastions, just say he's sitting on cart and he has to choose between shooting a squishy member in the back line and hoping his shots are enough to kill them, or trying to like burn down your shield and force you out of this position, he's more likely to shoot at you, and you're going to get that just sort of passive aggro from him, and that's going to get more shots from main from your team. So you're sort of creating your own mini off angle. When in perfect play, it would be your DPS abusing that off angle, but even you there alone can be more than enough to sort of break through this defense.
I'm actually used to play with the team. Like what Jesus English. I play with the team and like they're all pretty like high gold, low plat. And like they're really like they say, oh, you can play with us. You're not that bad. So I'm used to play with them and be like, okay, let's be a bit more organized. So that kind of usually plays against me when I play solo queue.
Yeah, and so if we had a more coordinated composition, if we were playing Rein Zarya with these DPS, maybe you could coordinate something down main and be more linear with your aggression. If we were playing Winston D.Va or Ball and D.Va or Winston, any of those three, and we were diving together, then yeah, you'd probably be focusing your aggression in one direction, right? But when we have these sort of mismatched win conditions where your Winston wants to be doing one thing and you and your DPS want to be doing another thing, it's still more important for you to be doing your thing at the same time that Winston does his thing, and split that aggression so that you sort of split their attention and they have a lot more to deal with all at once, rather than just like a half rush, half dive push kind of deal.
Yeah.
Just because these aren't tanks that typically work well together doesn't mean you should change your win condition to try and make it work. If you were trying to do that, I'd recommend switching to something like Zarya to just bubble the Winston and walk forward with him, D.Va to dive in with him, or Ball to follow up with him as well, or stuff like that.
But I mean, now we're playing into like their win condition, which is just expanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Even if you just look at the tank line, like if you were Sigma Winston walking into Reinhardt Roadhog, are you expecting to win those duels?
No.
Exactly. So you as the tank players sort of have to decide how your team takes engages, what kind of space, what kind of timing. And you shouldn't force a losing fight, even in just the tank matchup, let alone the spam damage matchup. You need to find ways that work for you as a tank, and then ways that complement the rest of your team as well. And that takes a lot of game knowledge, a lot of awareness, but the best tip I can give for sure is just, if they can do more damage and hold better space than you, you need to get around them. You can't go through them. It's like just, they're an immovable object. So, as I'm saying, they are immovable. One way to move immovable teams is with ultimate abilities. It just makes you a better hero than you normally are on a regular basis. So let's look at this from a third-person POV real quick. So just talking about this initial flux. So normally, if we stagnate sort of in this space here, if we spend too much time here, we're going to lose. And we're almost seeing that right now with you going down really low, with Bastion ulting and going aggressive with Hog in your backline. But you sort of flip the tempo on them by ulting here and forcing these three members back. So unfortunately, it looks like your team gets really disconnected. And not to mention, they stabilize with two support ults. So already, even though you didn't like net any kills with the Sigma Flux, you didn't get anything crazy done. You didn't do a ton of damage because they transcendenced. You've already done something you weren't able to do before, and that's break through this choke. So this is already like you've done a really good job as Sigma just fluxing through this point. Next, in order to maintain this advantage, one, you've got a man advantage. The Junkrat is dead. Two, you've broken through this space that's been the hardest space to break through on this map since it was launched. And we are now starting to set up space for our DPS. Unfortunately, at the same time, our DPS are currently dealing with a Roadhog, and they're going to be slow to follow this up. So one of the things I always tell people is once you have an advantage, the best way to maintain that advantage is to stay alive, basically, to play together, use your numbers advantage, use the space you've just created. Don't try to push for more right away, which is kind of what you're doing. You're trying to follow up this Winston when in reality, you would be the only one trying to follow up this Winston. And hopefully during Primal, Winston doesn't need as much as your help as he normally does. So watching this from third person, you can kind of see how disconnected you become. The shatter doesn't help either, but even without that shatter, you'd be kind of stuck again shooting Rein shield as Winston's primaling, trying to isolate the Bastion. As your DPS are back, you're trying to fight the Roadhog. It's a really unfortunate situation, but once you've broken this, once you've Sigma Flux, I'd like to see you play, at the very least, by the payload, and then checking behind you to see how fast your team's coming through, seeing this hog behind you.
I was going to say, what if I play the corner by the choke?
Yeah, that's even better. And then, again, you don't need to push right away. You've already broken this. You can wait for your resources to come back up, wait for them to set up, wait for your DPS to catch up to you. Then you push again. So you sort of, you spent a lot. You spent your ultimate to get through this point, and then you tried to keep going. And even though Winston was primaling, that's not really enough to warrant that aggression. If you had another big ultimate, like if we were instead playing Reinhardt and he lands a shatter, that might be big enough to keep going. But just a primal in their backline, again, since we don't really have a perfect synergy tank comp, it's really hard to make that work for you as an individual. So play for yourself, play for the corner here, play for your DPS to help them catch up, play to help flush out this hog, and then you and your DPS can sort of carry this fight in the long term by just opening up this whole part of the map by taking angles. Again, similar concept to around the choke. If you want to take space around it, same thing applies to if we want to get past something that's barricaded right here. We can take angles like this from our DPS, like this. You can just walk around them, find space around the shield to shoot, and Rein can't shield both you in this direction and your DPS in this direction. So he'll have to choose. And the same thing goes for Bastion trying to shoot at one of those targets.
All right.
I think a big common theme so far has just been don't try to force the synergy with Winston. He's going to be doing his own job, and the attention he got right here was like really good to help you guys stabilize, but trying to follow it up was a losing play kind of thing. And that's going to be the unfortunate reality of tank comps that don't have a lot of synergy, but that doesn't mean you can't still use the attention that each of you are getting. More attention on you means Winston can do more. More attention on Winston means you and the DPS can do more. All right, and we swap onto the Reinhardt. Is this a little bit of frustration, maybe? Feeling helpless in the Reinhardt duel?
Okay. Well, it's not against the Reinhardt, it's against the road.
Okay.
I was like looking at our team, and I'm like, well, I'm not really holding that much space with the Sigma, and I needed something to hold space longer, essentially. Right. In my head, I'm like, well, what does my team want to do? And I was seeing the Sombra switch, and then I'm the Hanzo and the Moira, and I'm like, well, if I can give them space, I can
hopefully they can get stuff done. Yeah.
So that was my idea, and then I see the guy switching to Sigma, and I'm like, okay, this works really better now.
Yeah, you got a lot more shield pressure. Number one, a lot more space control, a lot more longevity in these team fights.
My problem really wasn't the
Bastion,
the Bastion or the Zen. It was really the Roadhog,
because he's sort of doing all these flanks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I know I have to take care of the Roadhog before we like kind of move into the choke and trying to take that.
So, for example, the Roadhog here, whilst these people are shooting, and this is sort of the idea I was talking about for you guys on attack, where this off angle makes you guys choose, right? You have to choose to either try and take this fight down main or to block these Roadhog hooks. As Sigma, as the sole shield, you couldn't do both initially, but now that you've got these double shields, you got these more, tanky tanks, you can find more pressure in these kind of spaces and have a lot more time to flush out this Roadhog whilst also dealing with main. So that means either you'll have the shields to like shield up and then rotate into here as 6 people even and push them out, or even put a shield here and have your other tank push in this direction so that the damage coming through gets stopped and the flank is dealt with.
Right.
And this is the sort of benefit I was talking about by you playing up here as Sigma. It's the same thing the Roadhog's doing on defense. He's finding that off angle. He's using the attention that the Reinhardt, Bastion, Zen are taking, because those are very obvious threats, and he's using that to his advantage by finding flank value. And you can do the same thing on Sigma, you can do the same thing on Diva even, but just that's sort of a common off-tank practice, is to look to use the attention your main tank gets and not just try to support him in the same space all the time, but also use that to your benefit to be aggressive sometimes.
Right. And also, I love playing Reinhardt. So that's just more me trying to untilt myself, which I don't think I'm tilted, but
yeah, it's frustrating being a tank player and not being able to use the space that's afforded to you. And sometimes it's really hard, especially on a map like this that's this open, to really find valuable positioning. Because even just closing the distance, even just getting to cart, or even just getting inside this choke can be a hard job, right? There's so much damage coming through. Your shield only lasts so long. You need to try and herd your teammates like cats and get them to follow you. And that doesn't always work out. It's good, of course, to keep being proactive and keep trying these things. Even if you got shut down one time, doesn't mean it's going to get shut down the next time. So it's always good to keep that in mind. A bit aggressive here again. Similar to when you dropped here as Sigma. We can take our time here. We only have a minute left. We got to make sure we make the most out of our time. And that's generally going to mean waiting for respawns, waiting for a group up. I would say the same to the Sombra. If she decloaks right now, it's just a wasted decloak kind of thing. She's likely not going to get the kill on the Bastion. So if she gets forced out or even killed, that's again just wasting another 10 seconds. So if you ever see early disadvantages, like your Hanzo getting picked right here, we should be looking to stabilize and play slow and make sure we don't give up anything else. If it's like in the middle of a fight and you're already in position to start swinging, you're already fighting for space and your Hanzo goes down, you don't want to just completely disengage at that point, but the fact that it happened so early, it was basically a cleanup kill from the last fight. We still need to take that time to reset and group up. Oh, the Sombra actually got the kill on the Bastion. I was wrong.
60 seconds remaining.
So now, notice how things have changed without a Bastion in the mix. Unless he gets rezzed, I suppose. Now, we have the advantage in the frontline fight. So in this situation now, their biggest damage dealer, they still have a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. But now with that numbers disadvantage, now with our heroes, our double shield in play, we have the frontline advantage. So we should absolutely be pushing down main together to work on this advantage. Like I said before, the best way to maintain an advantage, or the best way to push an advantage, is to maintain it by staying alive, working together, layering our resources together. So in this case, for you, using your shielding in conjunction with your Sigma so that you can get swings off and he can get shots off, creating all that space together and just basically steamrolling them, hopefully, now that their Bastion is down.
Hopefully.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
So again,
I think okay, he dies. It should just stabilize.
Well, with the res coming through, I think you're in a really good spot to keep fighting this, actually. And with their Rein overextending even more. So, oh, the Valk, that's unlucky. Ooh. All right, so just to point out again, that Sigma getting pushed up like ahead of the team, getting caught by the junk trap. One, he should have seen the junk trap, sure, but another sort of symptom of he was trying to move up before you were even there as Reinhardt. And I'm sure you know this, you probably want Reinhardt ahead of the Sigma in this type of composition when you're pushing, so that this doesn't happen. But again, similar concept, and it's not uncommon in these types of games to be that disconnected. So if you can help out in communication, talking about timings, talking about when you're respawning, stuff like that, it can be a big help for your team. But otherwise, just at least making sure you're doing those things yourself. Okay. This is kind of the time where Reinhardt feels a little helpless, right? At this kind of range. So a couple things.
I didn't feel helpless. I was really trying to think about a way to deal with that Bastion more than anything else. But like it's not really my job to deal with the Bastion there.
Exactly. So two things. One, you're spending a lot of time in this open space. You did good of like falling back to cover here and here when you absolutely needed to, but you kind of like got healed up to like maybe 200 HP before peeking again. You didn't let your shield recharge before peeking again, that kind of thing. There were a lot of opportunities for you to just take a breath, get healed up by Mercy, get healed up by your Brig, wait for your best opportunity to go in, because then you're going to be able to get the most amount of space, the most amount of time for your teammates. If you're always forcing engages, even when you're still trying to get healed up, still waiting for your shield, you're going to get stuck in this space, and you're never going to be able to sort of close this distance even to get out of LOS from the Bastion. And it's just going to be a really hard time where it's feeling like, oh, I want to push out, oh, but I'm getting pushed back again. But then I'm too impatient to wait, and then I go back out, and then I get forced back again or forced back here. And it's going to be a lot of like just getting held right here instead of being able to bring the fight to the point, which is what we want to do. So even though this Bastion's putting out a ton of pressure, just waiting for our resources, both you and Sigma, I would say, like if he has full shield, if you have full shield, we can cross this distance and start taking a brawl, hopefully before Bastion shreds us all to pieces. In an ideal world, we'd be able to wait for someone like Sombra to flank the Bastion, someone like Hanzo to get some shots off so he has to move. But with 5-6 seconds left on the clock, we need to make the best push possible to make sure we can get to the payload and start trying to punish the members we have access to. Some other sort of mechanical things, if we go back. Even further than this, actually. So this was good up to this point. Again, right now, I'd like to see you either pushing with the payload so you're ready to fight these members over here, but again, you're mainly thinking about the Bastion, or at the very least, dealing with this hog who's right in front of you.
Didn't even. I was so
tunneled on the Bastion.
Yeah. Then I didn't even process the fact that I had a roll.
Not only that, but hooking your Mercy. I guess it's lucky he misses the shots. I don't know if you maybe tank some of those shots, but this is very fortunate for you and Mercy. And then again, of course, shielding a bit of this damage.
And then I process, I'm like, oh my god, yeah.
Where did he come from? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Bastion is a big threat, but realistically, other than the fire strikes you've been throwing, there's nothing you can really do about him. And I would say even those fire strikes, he's just going to right-click and heal himself back up. So it's kind of just wasting your time a little bit when there are more pressing issues at hand. And then again here, look at your HP. I'm so scared for you. You got no shield. He's still whole hogging. You're peeking around the corner looking for this fire strike. If he just turned to you for like half a second, you get blown up here. So value your life, I will say, is a big part of playing tank. Even if it means not being able to do the most for your team, you dying is the absolute least you can do for your team. So making sure, I mean, it's a miracle you survive. No offense.
It's silver land. Just saw my HP drop into 1. Oh, and then I died.
So
yeah, no, but here at that point I was really tilted.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the only thing you could have done to really try and win this fight is try to rally your team around you by waiting for full HP and then getting the most space possible in one big, strong push. That means trying to rally the Sigma around you and rally your DPS timings around you. In all likelihood, your supports aren't going to be the ones pushing ahead of you, but your DPS might be, your Sigma might be. So trying to either communicate with them, either by just saying like you're low yourself and letting them react to that, or by telling them to wait directly and saying like, wait for my shield and then we push kind of thing. All that being said, though, this is a very difficult situation to be in, obviously with the Bastion, who realistically at this time no one had the opportunity to deal with. It's a very annoying threat, especially with someone as short ranged as Reinhardt. So
Right.
there wasn't a lot you could have done in this situation.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, there were a few mechanical things you could have done better, a few awareness things, as we saw, that could have been cleaned up. But absolutely the biggest thing I want to sort of assign to you for future games, something you should be focusing on, is making sure that you are finding the best push for you when you're going into these fights. Whether that means waiting for your resources as Reinhardt and finding a good opportunity to close the distance, or finding opportunities for yourself as well as Sigma to find off angles and find damage, just like we saw their Roadhog doing. I'm not saying play like Roadhog when you're playing Sigma or anything like that, but find that pressure. Don't just always sit by the Reinhardt just because that's what he wants to do. Find opportunities for yourself and use the rest of your team to improve your own sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Improve your own, like the way you affect the game. There's a word I'm missing. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's going to be a big part of playing at low elos, is not necessarily always coordinating with your team, because it can be like herding cats and there's a lot of people doing their own thing. But you can use the fact that they're doing their own thing to your advantage by using them as sort of bait in a sense. And this is something I usually tell to DPS players, but it also applies to off tanks like Sigma, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, they people on low elo, they do actually genuinely try to do to coordinate things.
Okay.
We're just not good about it. We're just really not good.
Maybe the intention's there, but maybe the execution's lacking a little bit.
Yes. Because I remember vividly the Hanzo and the Hanzo calling like for more space to deal with the Bastion.
But he doesn't really know how to get that space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I remember the Sombra just calling like hacks.
So yeah, you already have like a lot to work with, and you can use those cues from your teammate in conjunction with what you see them do to find that space for yourself. So again, if you hear someone like Sombra saying she's hacking Bastion, that's a good opportunity for you as Reinhardt to be pushing as aggressively as possible so that hopefully your team follows up and uses that space. If you're still on someone like Sigma during those times, it means you can get more aggressive on a flank. If you're up here, you can push more aggressively, maybe even drop and help your Sombra in the backline. It means you can try and maybe take this angle and go shoot on their backline members out in the open. Use any excuse possible to find your own value, because even if you guys are perfectly coordinated, sometimes, like we saw, we were just taking losing fights. And even if we played that perfectly, if we're all playing down main, we're not finding a lot of individual value just by shooting into shields, and we're losing the poke war. It's just going to be a losing fight over time. So make sure you're also pressing not just advantages when they happen, but advantage specific to your hero. So in this case, Sigma is good at off-angling. Similar to Hog, similar to Diva. You could be like walking up here looking for hooks, boosting up here looking to matrix people in the backline, deny healing, or isolate people and assassinate them. Or as Sigma, obviously, you can just be a sort of ranged turret up here, shooting your hyperspheres down at them.
All right. Well, good news, the comp works better now.
Yeah. So now we're kind of doing something similar to they did, where we have a very stable composition with a lot of spam with our Junkrat, and we're going to be able to hold this lane very strongly, right? We got two shields on top of each other. We got the range damage from Junkrat pumping into shields, even boosted by Mercy. And we've got Soldier maybe on the high ground to get a slight off angle from verticality. So a lot of damage coming through from our composition.
3, 2, 1.
And they're not running any shields, which typically means that we're going to have a shield advantage. It's possible, you know. One thing I will say, so this is mainly on your Orisa, but if you were Orisa in this situation, is this where you would want to be holding?
No, I would be on high ground all day long.
Okay. So even with Orisa on the low ground, you could be holding high ground yourself as well. It's the better option for you. It might not be the better option for your Orisa, who's opting to play on the low ground for whatever reason, but it's a better option for you because, one, you're going to be safer. You're going to be able to take your shield down, and this will help protect you, this little fence. And then also, you'll be able to get more damage in from up here. You'll have a better angle to, I mean, again, they're not running shields, but if they had anything in your way, you'd be able to shoot over them into the back line. You'd be able to gauge your threats, get a better view of the battlefield, so to speak. So you'd know when more threats are flanking this way, when threats are flanking this way, when threats are on top, and you can respond to those as they pop up. But by limiting yourself with the Orisa, yes, it's giving you the best potential like frontline damage and shield pressure because you're layering shields on top of each other, and it's good for your Orisa to stay here. But your Orisa is not going to win you this point. And the only person you have control over in this game is yourself. So you should be trying to push as much of an advantage as possible for yourself. And even just the smallest things like playing this slight off angle, just like I mentioned, like Soldier playing up here instead of down here can be the fight winner. You playing up here instead of down here can be the fight winner. That kind of thing. The other thing I was going to say is we're putting our shields up really early. And again, this isn't entirely on you, but more on our Orisa. But even for someone like yourself, someone like Reinhardt in the situation, you wouldn't want to just be holding shield this whole time as they're walking up and you're just kind of sitting here. You'd want to be saving your shield HP, your shield cooldown if you're Orisa or Sigma, for when you can actually commit to a fight. So unless they're running big snipers or big long range damage, or you're reacting to something like Roadhog Hook, this shield is only blocking damage, and realistically, it's non-lethal damage. If anything, it's just ult charge for your supports. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this is especially important for someone like Sigma, who once you put your shield up, it's got very low HP, and then once you take it down, it's sort of like that 2-second wait. It's a bit of a commitment to put your shield up. So you putting your shield up here is telling me, okay, I'm ready to fight, when realistically there's nothing for you to shoot. There's nothing that you're actively blocking. There's no imminent threat of death for you or anyone else around you that the shield is going to prevent. So you could be saving this cooldown, saving the shield HP for something important. Like if you were to take this down and right at the moment Roadhog peaks and tries to hook your Mercy or something, you'd much rather have it up for that. If you were holding it up and then it breaks and then they've just been pushing straight forward this whole time because they're threatening you at range while you can't threaten them at this range, then your shield's going to be broken and then they just get even more space because they just poked it down during the pre-fight. This is also something you should be practicing if you see enemy Sigmas or enemy Orisas on the enemy team, is once they've put down their shield in a bad location, like maybe something like this, you should be poking the hell out of that, making sure that it's down immediately and then they have no more options for that shield. It's sort of like a concept we teach about Roadhog players where holding the hook can be a bigger threat than actually throwing the hook and missing, obviously. But just the threat of having hook makes people have to play differently. The threat of having your shield means people like Roadhog might be a little hesitant to try and hook, might mean people like flankers might be a little hesitant to go on you because you can always throw it up as soon as you're ready to fight. That kind of thing. Ooh. All right, we react to Roadhog this time. That was good. So again, see how hard this range is for you? Again, I just want to reiterate, could be a lot stronger to be up here, deny people like this Echo from holding the space in the first place, but even be able to hit people like this Soldier by stepping out a little bit of cover, throwing some shots in, backing into cover. Just repeating that. If you ever get a ton of focus on you, like if Roadhog's trying to hook you, you can throw your shield up for that, but you don't even need shield when you have this kind of positioning. Even on this corner, if you wanted to play safe without shield, you could just be jiggle peeking around this corner, throwing out spheres and stuff like that, and then waiting for stuff like the Roadhog hook. And any important cooldown, really. Your shield is, of course, renewable, so you want to be somewhat liberal with it compared to other cooldowns, like your shift, but it still takes time, and it is still like a mini commitment. So make sure we're getting the most out of it every time we put it up. So I think this was actually a good example of that concept, where you had your shield up, you took it down because it wasn't really doing anything, and you didn't want to fight in the space that it was creating. But then by taking it down, you just barely don't have it up for this Roadhog hook.
No.
So there was already an Orisa shield shielding you, number one. So you throwing up here was really only shielding a shield. Which, I mean, to be fair, if this was just spam versus spam, double shield versus double shield, sometimes you do want to shield a shield. But the reality in this case is they're walking around this shield. This shield is doing nothing for your team because it's being avoided by them. And you would much rather have your shield to sort of plug this gap when it's needed once they round this corner.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they were to come this way. Or if they were to flank behind you. All these kind of things.
Right.
Just wait for the moment that's best for you, not necessarily always for your team. And this is sort of an anti-main tank concept, because obviously main tanks want to play a lot for their team, but as the off tank in this situation, as Sigma in particular, playing for yourself is very valuable. Oh, how did that miss?
I don't know. That was. He just walked the other way. I thought
Yeah.
he was in front of me.
He became Neo in the Matrix and he dodged that one. Oh, and he wastes his ult. Okay, we take those. So actually, I wanted to point out something really good you did. It didn't matter too much in this situation, but I love the fact that you threw your shield for your team here, and then you turned to deal with this threat of Roadhog. So one, we saw him use his hook and he missed, so we knew we didn't need to immediately block his hook. And then what we're doing here is we're blocking this attention while putting our focus here. And what this means is you can help your team with your shift, with your left clicks and your rock to try and secure this kill on Roadhog without opening yourself to any spam damage coming through from the enemy Zenyatta or Echo in this situation. So imagine if they had everyone still alive and they were trying to push in at the same time. Your Orista's probably going to want to try and hold this space and throw her shield up, but 5 versus 1, she's not going to have a good time. So throwing your resources, because it is disconnected from your actual body, means you don't need to commit where it is, but you can use it to harder commit in your backline. So it's a bit of a more advanced concept, but this is exactly what we teach people, what we teach Sigma players in the Overwatch League, where if they are able to commit to something just with their body, they can use their shield to help another fight across the map. Maybe not that far, but like this distance is perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is great practice, and I'm not sure how aware of how good this is you are.
I didn't see the Orisa shield, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna throw the shield there so I can focus on the road.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
have to deal with the spam. And that was my.
It's perfect. It's basically it's like same concept if, for example, they had a Widow over here flanking, but the rest of the team was pushing in here. You could just throw your shield on the Widow and just deny this entire flank while still fighting over here. It's not a full committal just by throwing your shield up. It's just denying something that they were trying to do. And you could flip this on its head. Like if your team wasn't trying to fight the Roadhog, you could just throw a shield up here and walk forward with your team and take this fight. But the idea that you can desync your shield from where you're actually committing is like a really good high-level concept for Sigma players. So good practice. Just wanted to shout you out for that one.
Yeah. We are not completely bad.
No, there's a lot of good stuff we're seeing. But it's my job to point out the bad, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's...
So this poke damage is good, but do we really want to commit to a fight right here? Is this the kind of space that's gonna benefit not just yourself but the rest of your team?
I think we just might want to drop down to the choke.
To this choke or to this choke?
No, that choke.
Right.
Close to Kalar, because we have one more cover with Car, which is good for the Bastion.
So,
but I don't know. I'm like we're down one either way.
yeah, the Mercy going down is unfortunate. But even without Mercy going down here, I would say this is really risky space you're playing for. Unless we're ready to take a fight right here, it's very hard to hold this space and then like push into it the way we're kind of trying to. Whereas if we're holding back here, it's much easier to commit to this kind of space. Or even holding back here, much easier to commit into this kind of space. No. It's good that you want to hold aggressively because you always have the option of falling back. But because of how long these sight lines are, all we're really doing right now is losing our shield. We lost our shift. And then as soon as those go down, our Mercy got picked. So the reason I would say this is over aggressive is because if we look at the map, look at all the space they have before this choke that they can sort of surround this area. We don't want to fight here because we can only approach from one angle. Mm-hmm. Whereas if they were pushed into this space, they have less angles. They basically can come from here up top. There is this flank, but this is a little bit exposed, so it's a little bit riskier for them. And I guess there's this as well. Whereas we have this, we have the high ground pressure, we have potential flank options from here. And even if we're not using them, it's still a better fight for us because of the potential we have. And again, this goes back to our ability as Sigma alone to play this kind of high ground and sort of punish people that push into this space by playing up top, by even dropping on them if we want to get really aggressive, and by coordinating that off-angle push with our team. Or by playing, if we want to get aggressive as well over here. This is, I wouldn't recommend this, but it's like a possibility that the enemy team has to worry about. Whereas if we're pushing into this space, we are the ones who have to worry about all these potential threats.
Right. Okay.
And on top of that, also, of course, the Bastion, you're not going to be able to hold shield.
No.
So again, if you are looking to stand here for some poke, throw some poke in, keep your shield, keep your shift to help you get out against this much damage, against the Zen Bastion in particular. The poke damage you're doing, maybe Soldier's going to get this kill. I guess we should watch. But typically, the poke damage you're going to find at this kind of range is going to be more beneficial for the enemy team than it is for you.
I don't know. That looks like a very dead Soldier.
Ooh, he gets the kill, but he gets out.
Oh, he gets out.
The madman. So maybe this is just silver games, but typically that kind of play doesn't work out in your favor. And I just wanted to point out that the fact that you were up here draining your resources for so long gave them an opportunity to move forward. It was shut down by the Soldier flank and the Riptire from Junkrat, so that's good for your team actually, but it didn't look like that was necessarily intentional from you. So I just want to sort of point those things out for you as a player, as an individual in this situation. Were you aware of that Soldier in the enemy backline when you were poking here?
No.
So yeah, if this was like, if you were on your team and your Soldier player was like, I'm going on a huge flank, get aggressive, then yeah, this is warranted. But I would also like to see the rest of your team walking up as well, of course.
Yeah, if that was the case, I would have just dropped the ult.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, the fact that your shield's burnt, you use your shift, and you're still postured aggressively, this is an opportunity that if this kill doesn't come through, if this tire doesn't come through, you'd probably be dead. But it's kind of a lucky coincidence, I guess, that it does come through. Ooh, just got the kill. This is one of those situations I'd be telling the enemy team what I told you earlier about regrouping. Oh no, they're getting the kills. How does our Brig die? Sorry, I shouldn't be focusing on other members. I'm very curious now. And yeah, again, we're fighting a lot for this open space, and the same thing was true over here. We need to either, remember here, if we were aggressing, we want to close the distance. We don't want to linger in this open space. And we're doing the same thing over here on defense, where this open space, like, it's fine for spam, but you're not the one winning the spam war versus a Bastion, versus a Zen, versus an Echo who just turned into a Junkrat. So don't necessarily play for this, even though you're getting a bit of ult charge, you're getting some hit markers in. It's not going to lead to a strong team fight, as we're seeing. And I think even just as the tank player, you can be the one sort of influencing how aggressive your teammates are getting as well. Like if you're sitting up here throwing spam in, your Brig's probably like, oh, I want to be up there with a Sig. Oh, Junkrat wants to be up here spamming as well. Orisa wants to walk up and support you. They're sort of making that decision based on where they see you playing, not necessarily where they should be playing. So if you know where you, quote unquote, should be playing, you can influence your team members to play around similar space just by existing there as a tank. But yeah, a lot of open space means our resources are drained. Now that you've got basically no shield, your shift's on cooldown, they're going to walk at you and there's nothing you can do about it. We can ult.
That's a hold in space ult.
Yeah. It's good to stop the aggression. Even, like I said, without getting the kills last time, it was good to break through space. It's also good to stall their aggression. Same thing applies to ults like Diva Bomb or May Blizzard. Even if it's not getting 6 kills, stopping or creating tempo, as it were, can be really, really strong uses of those ultimates. But I still think it's going to be too much, it looks like. If we had waited at this back corner here with both our shields, if we had waited for them to close the distance a little bit and then threw our resources out, if we had our Sig Shield at full HP, if you had your Shift available, and then we Sig ult, then we could actually use that as a reason to go aggressive ourselves. But because we were already at a disadvantage, like ignoring even the picks that came through for the enemy team, even just your shield health and your shift being used, that's just an excuse for them to walk forward. So just don't give them that excuse, basically.
All right. And that's pretty much game.
Yeah, it doesn't look too good from this point on. They don't have to push it too far, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We'll just get through this. Yeah. So, were there any questions about anything we talked about? Any specifics you wanted to go over?
Not really. It was a painful game. It was a painful game. but I see how it could have done more on that game. I'm not sure it would have won the game either way, but it would have been, we would have had a better chance. Dealing with the Bastion on the first point, that Bastion that was holding the high ground. That's something that I need to work on. Just I think I should have just played more like off angles onto the Bastion.
Yeah, and this might be just. Do you play a lot of Rein? You said, is he probably your main hero?
I play a lot of Rein. Like I'll be honest with you, I don't have that many hours into this game. I have less than 100 hours.
Okay. Well, it's good. You're still learning. You still have a lot of room to adapt your playstyle.
I play a lot of Rein, but I don't play against a lot of Bastions.
Well,
like
you're in for a fun time every time you do. The biggest thing you can acknowledge is, as a tank player, you never want to just be walking at the Bastion, right? And so this map in particular is like the perfect example of options you have. But even on smaller maps, even on maps like King's Row, for example, where it doesn't seem like you have a lot of options, there are still things you can do to get around the Bastion rather than just sort of running it down mid, so to speak. So you always need to think of what your resources are, how long they're going to last, and this is just going to come with comfort on the hero and acknowledging like how much damage is coming through from the enemy team. You got to think about how much space you can afford yourself in order to put yourself in the best position for the team fight. Like we said with Sigma, that usually means on an off angle, but sometimes if you're the team with more spam damage, if you're the team with the Bastion, for example, it can mean pushing together down mid. If you're the team with double shield, if you were running Junk Bastion, you could just stick on your Orisa the whole time. They'd never be able to burst through your shields, and then anytime they try to take space, you can just walk forward into them because you have that ranged damage advantage. But when you don't have that advantage, you need to play for space. Okay. You need to find off angles because if they're allowed to just shoot at you the whole time, if we even just talk about solely the Bastion, but even members like Zen or Junkrat, if they're allowed to sit here and shoot and hold mouse 1 the entire game, of course they're going to find value. So how do we find ways around that? And the answer is usually by flanking, by setting up DPS, and people like yourself who can do good off-angle damage.
All right. Yeah, I have problems with like big open maps. Because playing Rein in a close map or playing Sigma in a close map like King's Row, it's straightforward. You well,
because you're always in range, right? You're always in range to hit people with your left click. Your shield's always going to find value. But in a situation like this, like even if this was just one lane, this range alone makes it hard for Sigma, even for Orisa, to find good value from her shield. So you need to be a little bit choosier with your position, play tight to corners, play tight around cover, so that you don't need your shield up 24/7. You can throw it up for when you really need it, for when they start coming into you, and then you throw it up to get the most time for yourself and for your team, and the most value out of your hero, the most damage, the most ult charge, the most attention on yourself, that kind of thing.
All right.
That was a bit of a short VOD. I don't know. We don't have time to fully deep dive into another one. But are there any other things you'd like to talk about? Any other maps you'd like to look at?
Defense against Diana. Again, not Diana. I mean the Jesus the May.
Very different heroes. Okay.
Yeah, I have problems with the May wall.
Right. So just as a general rule, playing against a May, you always need to be thinking about two things. Choke points. Here, let's use a different color. That's easier to see. Choke points and corners. These are the best opportunities for May to split you from your team, because not only, choke points are obvious. I think, there's just no way around the wall once they put it up. But on corners especially, it's very hard for your team to rotate like this because 1, it takes time, and 2, it puts them extremely in the open, and then being able to fall back into cover becomes even more than just falling back through the wall, where normally you'll be playing a corner like this, sort of peeking back and forth around to save your shield to get the most value out of your hero. But by getting walled around a corner, it's like a long rotation, and then even once you get around the wall, you're still not done. There's still all this space you need to get through.
Right.
So those are the biggest danger zones against Mei. And let's take a look at what she actually does. Again, another kind of concept of, are you really blocking anything important right now? Granted, you are Rein. You've got a much tankier shield. And you've got Sigma on top of that who can cover if your shield goes down and stuff like that. But look at the heroes on the enemy team. The only thing you're blocking right now is non-lethal damage again. This is a good opportunity to either just not peek at all, not feed them that damage, let Hanzo take some pot shots if he wants to by peeking around himself. But all we're doing right now is sort of spending our shield. It's at half HP right now. So if they were to speed into us, again, I know they don't have Lucio, but if they were to come in fast right now, we'd be fighting with half shield when we'd much rather be fighting with full shield.
Right.
We can always heal up a bit of chip damage that comes through, but your shield is on its own internal timer, so we got to make sure we're getting the most out of that. So that's, again, more on your Sigma than anything, but I guess there's a question of communication about where you're holding. If you were communicating you wanted to hold that corner, then he shouldn't have been up there. If he was communicating he wanted to hold the choke, maybe you could have pushed up with him. I'm going to go back and look at this fight from third person to get a better idea of what actually happened here. So the wall comes up and your Sigma is completely isolated. Again, this was poor positioning on his part. That's a big hammer. You tried to help it a little bit, but realistically pushing any deeper than what you're doing right now would just expose yourself as the next target. Your Reaper's finding some value on the flank and pulling some attention, which is good, giving you some space to stabilize. So right now, are you aware of these 3 members over here?
Yeah, I'm aware. That's why I'm going down.
Okay, that's good. We turn, we get the Baptiste. So you made a bit of an aggressive rotation rather than a defensive rotation here. And getting the kill on the Bap, good. But the real problem right now is this high charge Zarya pushing forward and trying to stabilize your team at disadvantage. Mm-hmm. If anyone's going to be going for a play to find kills on backline right now, it should probably be people like your Hanzo or your Reaper. Hanzo just died, so it's not going to be him. But the only way that you're going to be able to turn this fight is with people like Reaper getting kills on the backline while you simultaneously stabilize and keep these members alive. You guys are pretty split right now, which makes it hard. But imagine, for example, if we go back 5 seconds, if instead of rotating towards these members with your Reaper, if you had rotated here and sort of held this space and were able to block both these incoming pressure points. We'll just watch it from third person to get an idea. That was a nice play from their Mei, to be honest. But yeah, choosing to go aggressive here, specifically as the main tank, I think was the wrong decision. We needed to make something happen in order to find an advantage, but your Reaper was already making that play. And he should be the one making those plays rather than you, because he can find more damage sooner, he can get out with his shift more easily, and you need to be there to absorb the pressure. You want to be like this big roadblock in their way when they're trying to push into you. So you were a bit of a roadblock for the Baptiste, but everyone like that Zarya, that Genji, that Mei, that Moira, that pushed into your backline, they had no problems getting around you.
Yeah.
Well, you got the Mei, so we take that. Built a bit of an ult charge. Not bad.
Objective lost. Stop the pain.
So when you're thinking about holding space versus a Mei, does that change where you want to position, or do you still want to position in like a similar way for your team?
I mean, what I've experienced, if you hold corners really hard, the Mei at some point will fuck up.
Well, right now, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
This wall doesn't really do anything. It's easy to get around. It doesn't fully block the choke. It's stopping this Reaper from walking directly backwards, but he's not. He shouldn't be in danger as long as he got his shift up. So this looks fine. Oh, that's not you. I was just going to say, it means that wherever you're holding, you shouldn't be anticipating the ability to push too much. So, for example, if you're holding this corner, you don't want to be pushing past this corner into them because that's when they're going to wall you off.
Yeah.
If you are able to hold this corner defensively and bait the wall out while still like keeping good shield health, still not finding too much pressure on yourself, then that's really, really good. And you're just going to be wasting their time, wasting their Mei wall and stuff like that. So I actually think this is really good positioning. It's just about understanding that being aggressive against a Mei can be really, really dangerous. Unless, of course, she's got her wall down, if she's dead, stuff like that. Ooh. That was really good, though, knowing to block the Mei damage. You're playing for your team really well here. Now that they don't have wall, we can get a little more aggressive. Ooh, not with those picks coming through, though. I think you did a fine job. Let's look at what happened in our backline during this time, though. So...
the Genji happened.
True. So, just like before, they aren't planning to win this frontline fight. We have 2 shields and they don't. They have a Zarya and a D.Va. They do not have a lot of frontline pressure. So what does their D.Va do? She escorts their Genji to find an off angle and just annihilate your backline. So what can you do in this instance? Do you have any ideas?
Going back? I mean, you can go back to protect backline.
Mm-hmm. I'd say you have 2 options. Yes, this is option 1, playing safe. And the only thing that would make me hesitant about this is your distance from them. So,
yeah. I mean, you can always charge back.
True. I would say that's a bit too much of a reaction, though. Charging back, unless you actually get a kill on someone like the Genji, puts you very out of position. And basically, these members who thought you were committing here are now without a main tank. And you'll likely force them to use their resources a lot more defensively than they wanted to, maybe wasting them and stuff like that. And then the enemy team just walks up and kind of rolls over you. So I would recommend against charging back, unless you're the only one up here. Mm-hmm. But if there's anyone with you, leaving them out to dry like that can be pretty bad. Option 2, though. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, you can also win the frontline fight so hard that you don't need to...
Exactly. And that's the point I want to bring up. So this is a different situation than the fight on first point, where you opted to go aggressive when we needed to play defensively. And what's different here is, 1, we are starting at a disadvantage. We were down a member. We were down our Sigma, especially, who can't mark as much space. So there's a lot less stability in our composition without that other tank. And the distance to your backline is much shorter. It's actually shorter to get to your backline than it is to aggress on the members you did aggress on. Mm-hmm. Compare that to this situation. We could make this even more extreme. Imagine if your Hanzo and Ana were on the high ground, where they're just completely out of reach, and there's nothing you can do to help them when Genji and D.Va dive them up here. In this situation, of course, you have no option. You have to push forward. But what we're doing is, remember what we talked about on Junkertown, where if we take attention somewhere else, it's enabling the rest of our team, right?
Yeah.
If this attention is going on our backline, it's enabling us to find this frontline fight. And as we know, with Zarya, D.Va, they don't have a lot of frontline pressure, and your shields, even Sig's shield, is going to be huge value in the middle of this fight. I would love to see you all, including your Ana, including your Mercy. Hanzo's realistically not in a good position. This is something he did to himself by standing in the open, similar to our Ana. If they were playing better space, corners, high grounds, they'd have a lot more options for escaping, but they've kind of sealed their fate by playing like this. Mm-hmm. So your best option in this case, since you're so close, since it's so far to your backline to really do anything to help them, since you have the frontline advantage, we should be pushing into this and evening out the fight. So even if they do trade out Hanzo, maybe we get Baptiste, maybe we get 2 people, maybe we get all 3 people, that kind of thing. Right. But we end up playing slow here, because Hanzo's probably calling behind him and stuff like that. So if we opt to play this slow, we need to commit to playing slow and backing out. So
yeah, I think that's an awareness problem from my just
I think I played it slow out of just pure reaction and not because the Genji and the Diva were behind.
So I guess so. You didn't know they were there, basically.
I don't think I knew. Because
Okay.
if I knew, I would have turned back and just go all the way around.
So to be fair, right at the time they jumped in, you turned to keep blocking the Mei. So your attention was grabbed. What I would say is at this moment right here, right when you become unfrozen, look at the people in front of you. Let's look at your POV right now, or not. So who do you see in front of you that isn't a good target, basically? Mei just used both of her cooldowns. I'm pretty sure we saw Zarya use her bubbles. Let's go back. Maybe we didn't see it directly. Okay. But yeah, there's some really good targets to be swinging on right now. And you've got good HP, good shield HP. If I were in your position right now, especially knowing your team was with you, seeing the Sigma barrier means you know he's with you. Hearing the Reaper shotguns means you know he's with you. Getting the Mercy pocket means you've got her attention on you. Walk up and keep swinging. There's no Diva here in your line of sight. If she comes into the fight, you can back up. If the Genji comes into the fight, you can back up. But these members are so low that you should be swinging. You should be walking up on them. But then, obviously, just that little bit of hesitation meant your team thought we were backing up, and then we weren't ready to hard commit. And then the trades come through right at the time when we decide to hard commit. So if we made this decision like 5 seconds earlier, like right as this Mei was in ice block, if instead of back here, we were up here, this is our opportunity to find those kills. But then, as time goes on, by the time we reach that line...
I guess it's when the Mei was in Iceberg, could have just pushed, isolate the Mei and kill her.
Yeah, exactly. She had no more cooldowns. She could still freeze you, that kind of thing, but more than likely, she will die before you will when she's out of ice block. And then, yeah, obviously the kills coming through, but then also once they use an ult to stabilize, the Moira ult coming through right now, that's when you probably want to start giving her space. Unless you're about to net like another kill or you're about to win this fight, this ult is really good for stabilizing them and pushing back into you. So it's really just, I think, a little bit of hesitation when all the triggers were in front of you to sort of force that engagement. The Mei used her cooldowns. Their team was split. All the members in front of you were very punishable. You had the team with you, but we hesitated a little bit because we were worried about the Mei. We were worried about their potential engage. We still need to be finding our good fight. And our good fight for you as Reinhardt means swinging on members who don't want to be swung on.
Yeah, finding good fights.
Here, so let me go back. It's a nice shatter.
I wouldn't say that. I didn't really have follow.
So
like as I was doing it, I'm like, wait, I have nobody.
This is something as simple as, looking at the kill feed. We saw the same thing on Junkertown where we're trying to get aggressive when in reality, we need to take a breath. We need to take our time to reset. As defenders especially, snowballing is very real on attack. If they're going to be this aggressive, it's probably not unwarranted. It's probably because they found some sort of advantage. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to walk up here in the first place. So even though you find this is big, and even though technically Reaper's with you, we get the Diva mech, but it's not going to be enough to really do anything, and it might even stagger some deaths here. If the Reaper dies, keep him up. Nice. Okay, so that was actually pretty good. What was good about that is that even though we were at disadvantage in terms of numbers, they had people on the payload during that whole fight. So it was like an even fight, basically. It was like a 2v3, but you had Shatter, so you evened the numbers by getting a good ultimate off. And they weren't able to hard commit because, again, there weren't that many people in front of you. So I actually think this Shatter was, in hindsight, a good call. In the moment, it's a little risky. Because, again...
It's a high risk, high reward, I guess.
Yeah. So at this point in time, I don't think you knew exactly how much support you had. I don't think you knew how close your Ana, Reaper, and Hanzo were, but you saw the targets.
When the Shatter landed, and it kind of clicked, I'm like, yeah, I don't have... I didn't feel... Like, it was more of a feeling, like, I'm like, I don't know, I feel like a disturbance in the force. I don't have nobody with me. So
A disturbance in the force, I like that.
That's what I call just my my pure tank feeling of like, yeah, I don't have nobody with me, so I have to get like on their faces and try to get a kill.
Fair enough.
If I can kill, then I can get some kind of value out of the shatter.
So yeah, the big things you should be looking for. So one, if you knew these members were with you, I guess maybe you did know. You saw the Ana Hanzo there. So you should be expecting follow-up from them. This isn't... I think this is fine, to be honest. The only thing is, since it is only tanks, I might want to see a charge come through to get that burst damage on them and make sure we net that kill. But we actually did have the follow-up. Look at all these members with you. Where's the Reaper? He was here too, wasn't he? Oh, there he is. So... yeah, I think that was fine. Maybe if in the moment you didn't realize it, there were actually some things you saw that would have given you that confidence. Seeing the Ana Hanzo stabilizing, seeing only 3 members in front of you, vulnerable to shatter. And yeah, like I said, even through a grav, you guys survive. You stabilize well. You get a kill in the Diva, and we even bait out their Blizzard. Ooh, I think you could have lived there. I think just like a hop. Oh, they boop you out. Okay. This is a really weird fight. Good pressure on the Genji as he's blading. You are not his ideal dive target, so that was good.
That is questionable. That was questionable.
The charge?
Yeah.
Here, let's look at it from third-person POV.
I tried to not use charge.
So I actually think this charge is fine. Maybe not perfect. You were intending to land around here? I'm guessing you wanted to hit this Mei on the side.
I think at the moment I saw the numbers advantage and I'm like, okay, I can get crazy.
So yeah, so more than numbers advantage. Look at what we've committed so far. We Sigma Fluxed. They committed a lamp. They committed Mei wall here, and yeah, I think this was warranted. Their big damage dealer, Genji, was dead. Their Zarya is probably your biggest threat, but even if you die during that charge and you trade for the Mei, that's still good for your team.
Right.
And then obviously Reaper coming in. That Death Blossom probably wasn't needed. You probably could have cleaned up those kills anyway, based on the pressure you had. But yeah, I would say that was fine, to be honest. That shattered play into the charge, I think that was all fine. You need to be able to make those aggressive plays in those kind of moments where it's not a huge advantage that you have, but you do have an advantage. In that case, when you were coming out of the choke for the shatter, you did have numbers over those 3 members. In the case of the charge, you did have an advantage because they burned a lot of cooldowns. And it was the same thing. This was like, there was no hesitation in that play, whereas this play back here, we saw that hesitation and how it didn't pay off. So we are a little bit over time, so I might need to cut things off here.
Yeah.
But were there any questions from any of this map, any of the previous map, any just general concepts you wanted to ask?
Maybe more about finding the right play.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So let's talk about Reinhardt specifically, because you are the playmaker on Reinhardt. You go in and your team goes in, you back out and your team backs out, right? So big things you want to be looking out for. Obviously, the biggest thing is likely numbers advantage. If you guys find a pick, just through poke damage, through Hanzo finds a pick or something, you probably want to push on that. Not necessarily push into their spawn, but push aggressively to try and find more value off that. It's warranting your aggression because they're down a man, kind of thing.
Okay.
Outside of that, there are a lot of other resources you can manipulate, and we talked about a few of them already. So talking about this charge on the bridge, they burned Mei wall, they burned Mei's shift, they burned Baptiste's lamp, they burned Graviton Surge earlier. They had no Diva with them. They used a lot of cooldowns that are arguably like fight-winning cooldowns. And they used a lot of ultimates that are fight-winning ultimates, including Graviton and Blizzard. They did not have the resources to stabilize, so you can be over-aggressive in anticipation that they're not going to be able to handle it. And that even if you did die in that situation, that would have meant taking all of their attention for long enough to kill you, and any lingering resources they might have had. Maybe Zarya's bubbles, maybe Moira's fade and stuff like that, which makes it even easier for your team to follow up. The other thing we talked about, obviously important, is knowing your team is with you and ready to fight with you. So even just using audio cues, seeing the heroes around you, seeing Hanzo shots fly past you means you know where Hanzo's looking. Hearing Reaper's shotguns right beside you means you know where Reaper's looking. Seeing Sigma shield in front of you means you know where Sigma's looking, that kind of thing. So recognizing when you have backup, recognizing when the enemy team is low on resources, whether that's just normal cooldowns, whether that's man advantage, or whether that's ultimate abilities. And then the final thing, and this is the hardest one to read by far, is positioning, which is the one we talked about over here. If we know, and again, this takes a lot of awareness or communication from your team, that we know that D.Va and Genji are pushing in here, that means they've committed to this fight and they won't be able to handle your aggression by going in here. Basically, imagine, again, if they were committing on high ground and there's nothing you can do for here, if all you do is back up, you're basically telling these people, okay, win this duel or we lose the fight. Whereas if you use the time that the D.Va and Genji took to get on this high ground, the time it takes for them to net these kills, to find an advantage yourself, means you can even up the fight and maybe even turn it in your favor.
All right. Okay. All right. So
those are the big three.
Okay. Yeah, it takes a lot of awareness.
Yeah,
All right.
that's your biggest toolkit as a tank player, is knowing when and where you are most needed and how basically how aggressive you can be at any given moment.
All right. Okay. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Hope this was helpful for you.